All right, the very state of real estate supposedly is changing. Haven't watched the news since March of 2020, but that's what they tell me, the lawsuit with NAR. So we sat down 9 a.m. as we do every single Monday in Davidson, North Carolina, talking real estate. We sat down with one of the most successful lenders in the area. So on this mentor sessions today, the top 4 facts that came out of that very conversation, very high level conversation about buyer agency in America, in North Carolina specific, changing. The 4 things you can do today in this part of life of uncertainty. Are you ready? Let's go. Barry Pulver, owner of the Exceptional Brand, powered by EXP. Let's talk about 4 facts in this element of uncertainty here when it comes to buyer agency in America. Number 1, VA buyers. If you have ever worked with a VA loan, you will know specifically what that does entail and what cannot come into play, aka commissions. So we're in this time of uncertainty, but ensure you have those direct conversations with any VA loans people you are helping on the buyer side. Know the product, know what is possible, know what is not possible. Many changes are going to come between now and the middle of July 2024, but VA buyers and the category of helping with VA loans is going to drastically change. Number 2, down payment assistance. Now, in every big city, in other cities, it may be rural, it may be city, maybe state funded. People who are trying to get onto this property ladder, which, let's be honest, not just here in America, but anywhere around the world, with inflation, with COVID, during COVID prices raising, can be very, very difficult. So people who may be establishing credit, maybe newer, younger buyers, sometimes look at what is on offer from the state or city or county level. When it comes to that, it's a very, very small niche and criteria by which things will fit into that category. So no, if you are pushing, if you're working with first-time home buyers, if you're working with people who are looking for first-time home buyer assistance or government assistance, have a look at exactly how those loans are structured, what can be put into that, and specifically as a buyer agent, exactly where the commission element comes into that too. Number 3, this is where I enjoy things. When, as a buyer agent, do you get the buyer agency agreement signed? Now, there's 12, 13, 14 states in America where buyer agency agreements and buyer agency has been a thing, including right here in Davidson and throughout North Carolina, both Carolinas. But in some states, I know the majority of states, that's not always the case. Part of the reason for the lawsuit, I would say, from my own personal experience of purchasing a home before being a licensed real estate agent, transparency, education, and how an agent presents their value. And I was a brand new real estate agent, and I will never forget this. At the largest training company, it just so happens to be red and white in the world, I was specifically taught to be a buyer's agent first, because not only is it easier, but you can also say that you don't charge the buyers anything. All of your commission and your professional fee comes out the side of the sellers. That's where we are in 2024. Transparency and honesty. Instead of being a glorified door opener, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer Agent, don't take that Zillow lead, which will not be valid for very long, and meet them at the front door of the house they want to see. Meet them in neutral territory. You can always meet at your office. I always prefer to this very day to meet someone in the neutral element of a coffee shop. Have a chat with the individual. Learn about them, what they're looking for. They may have this particular price point or what they feel is this particular need. Ask the question why. Ask the question, can you tell me more about that? Or tell me more about that. Learn about them and their needs and their desires. If you are the expert, you're not just a door opener. You will be match fixing effectively them to the perfect property of what they are looking for. So do not be afraid to have the conversation about a buyer agency agreement. Lord, you can have a buyer agency agreement for a day if you're showing properties, if you don't want to get them to commit to you and your services. Maybe you don't have the confidence in them, or maybe they don't have the confidence in you. But have the conversation about a buyer agency agreement and compensation. If you don't have that conversation, how can you expect the buyer to come to the closing table and write you a check when you never had that conversation in the very first place? It is important in this day and age, how I see it, is to treat a buyer the same as you would a listing. Before the property you're listing ever goes on the market, you have all the documentation, you have all of your ducks in a row, you have all of your marketing, you have the level of expectation and conversation, communication every step of the way. If you're working with a buyer, why do you we as an industry not have that exact same process? Every buyer you have the ability and pleasure of working with, you should now see the exact same level as a listing. When you do that, your level of professionalism, your level of service, and funnily enough, your business will grow up too. See every buyer, every client as exactly the same, whether they're on the listing side or on the buying side. Number 4 may rub people the wrong way, but social media. Be very careful and very intentional about the time you spend on there. I'm talking Facebook specific. Not only am I not a fan of social media personally, I understand why people are. I personally solely use it only for business and growing my business all around the world, but I understand the connections, the network, the community is. The pros outweigh the cons. However, in real estate, don't believe the hype. Don't believe what you're reading. Realistically, from the 49% of realtors who sell this to this many homes every single year. There are so many real estate community groups. There's so many real estate groups and pages and chatter and noise and nonsense and mumbo jumbo out there. Just be very cautious and intentional by what you take in. You know, when I was a newer agent, even now, I'm very intentional, not necessarily the subject I'm learning, but who I'm learning from. If I'm learning about how to make 7 figures a year from someone who sells 3 homes a year, probably not the best use of my time and knowledge of resources, because they don't have the skills and the ability to teach me what I don't already know. But when it comes to these groups, referrals are huge. I'm a big fan of groups when it comes to referrals. If you're not part of an EXP or a massive company that has the best agents in every market in the world, then you're not probably going to refer your clients in-house. You're going to want to go out of house. Great thing. But everybody's just responding, much like this very video, to hypotheticals when no one truly knows what is going to happen. So be careful of going down the rabbit holes, which we all do when we get onto a social media channel, of listening to everybody's point of view and opinion, because let's be honest, none of it actually matters. And that time can be spent into prospecting, following up, building on your brand, and educating yourself to be a better agent for when changes come. 4 things you can do now as a real estate agent in America. Change is coming. Change is definitely coming. But you know what? If you work on yourself and you focus on your value and what you present and offer to people, your business is only going to go one way.